Devaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Text 1. Arjuna Uvacha Jayasi Chit Karmanaste Mata Buddhi Janardana Tat Kim Karmani Gorema Niyojayasi Keshava.
Arjuna said, O Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work?
Text 2. Vyami Shreneva Vakyena Buddhim Mohyasiva me Tadekam Vada Nischitya Yena Shreyo Hamapuryam.
My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me.
Text 3. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Lokesmina Dvividanistha Pura Prokta Mayanaga Gnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service.
Text 4. Na karmana manarambha naishkarmya purushosnute nacha sanyasanada deva siddhim samadhi gacchati.
Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection.
Text 5. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi chatu tisthatya karmakrut karyate hayamsha karma sarva prakruti jai gune.
Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment.
Text 6. Karmendriyani sanyamya ya aste manasa smarana indriyarthana murdatma mithyacharah sa uchyate.
One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender.
Text 7. Yastvindrani manasa niyamyarabate arjuna karmendriye karma yogam asaktasa visichyate.
On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior.
Text 8. Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jyayogna karmanah sharira yatra pichate na prasiddhyeda karmanah.
Perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work.
Text 9. Yagnarthat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhanah tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara.
Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage.
Text 10. Sahyagya praja sustava Purovacha Prajapati Anena Prasavishyadvam Eshavo Stista Kamaduka.
In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation."
Text 11. Devan Bhava Yatadnena Te Deva Bhavayantu Vaha Parasparam Bhavayantaha Shreyaha Param Avapyasyatha.
The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus, by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all.
Text 12. Istan Bogan Hi Vo Deva Dasyante Yagya Bhavitaha Tairdantan Pradayebhyo Yo Bhunkte Stena Evasaha.
In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief.
Text 13. Yagyashista Shinah Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilvishaye Bhujante Te Tvagam Papa Ye Pachantyatma Karanat.
The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others, who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment, verily eat only sin.
Text 14. Annad Bhavanti Bhutani Parjanyadana Sambhavaha Yagnad Bhavati Parjanyo Yagnaha Karma Samudbhavaha.
All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties.
Text 15. Karma Brahmod Bhavam Vidhi Brahmakshara Samudbhavam Tasmat Sarva Gatam Brahma Nityam Yagne Pratischitam.
Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice.
Text 16. Evam pravartitam chakram nanu vartayati hayaha agayura indriyaramo mogam partha sajivati.
My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice, thus established by the Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain.
Text 17. Yastvatvam ratir eva syad atma truptasya manavaha atmaneva cha santustah saha tasya karyam na vidyate.
But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty.
Text 18. Naiva tasya krutenartho na kruteneha kasyana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaschirdartha vyapashraya.
A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being.
Text 19. Tasmad saktaha satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hayacharan karma parmapnopti purushaha.
Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the supreme.
Text 20. Karmanaiva hi sansiddhim sasthita janakadyaha lokasangrahamevapi sampashyan kartum harim.
Kings such as Janaka attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work.
Text 21. Yagnada charati shresthaha tata devetaro janaha sa yat pramanam kurate lokasta danu vartate.
Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues.
Text 22. Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam vaptavyam varta eva cha karmani.
O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything, and yet I am engaged in prescribed duties.
Haribol.
Haribol, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Very nice. Sonal Mataji, very nicely, very eloquently spoken English. And then Yogesh Prabhu, amazing. Your pronunciations on the Sanskrit was just terrific. I particularly like how you paid a lot of attention on the and everything. That makes a lot of difference in the pronunciation. It was fantastic. Also, na and ana. So you're pronouncing karmani instead of karmani. So all that makes us the shlokas sound very nice. So wonderful. Thank you so much, Yogesh Prabhu.
Thank you. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we're going to now just stop sharing this and go on to our PowerPoint.
Resolved.
Okay, devotees, we're going to continue reading the chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita as it is. And the section is called Karma Yoga. I can get the slides to move forward. Yeah, okay. And we will do as usual, we'll do the little chapter summary. So the first two texts spoke about renunciation. This is Arjuna actually asking whether he should renounce or work. He's asking for clarification. Because chapter 2 was a summary of the whole of Gita, there are many subject matters were discussed. So Arjuna wants clarification. Then 3 to 9, Krishna speaks about Nishkam Karma Yoga. And then the next section, which we will end today, is 10 to 16, where Krishna takes Arjuna through the yoga ladder from Karma Kand to Karma Yoga. So today's verse is 3:16. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 16. Evam pravartitham chakram nanuvartayati haya aghayur indriyaramo mogham partha sajivati. Translation of Prabhupada Ki Jai. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in the human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. Very powerful message. So the purport, I've divided the purport into two sections. So for the first part, I will request, let's see how quickly we can get somebody to recite this. So I'm going to try again. Okay, let's see. Al-Kaben, you're online. Al-Kaben, could you recite the first paragraph? Al-Kabayani. Okay. Watch my words. It'll be probably the third one that works. Now let's see who else is there. Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu, will you be able to read the first paragraph?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Oh, wow, wonderful. Worked the second time round. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Purport. The Maimonish philosophy of work very hard and enjoy sense gratification is condemned herein by the Lord. Therefore, for those who want to enjoy this material world, the above-mentioned cycle of performing yajnas is absolutely necessary. One who does not follow such regulations is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more. By nature's law, this human form of life is specifically meant for self-realization in either of the three ways, namely Karma Yoga, Gnana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga. There is no necessity of rigidly following the performance of the prescribed yajnas for the transcendentalists who are above vice and virtue. But those who are engaged in sense gratification require purification by the above-mentioned cycle of yajna performances. There are different kinds of activities. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Chandra Prabhu. Very nice. Thank you so much. So second page, I will now request Jai Prabhu. Jai Prabhu, are you able to unmute?
Yeah, 1 second. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Let me just zoom in. Those who are not Krishna conscious are certainly engaged in sensory consciousness. Therefore, they need to execute pious work. The yajna system is planned in such a way that sensory conscious persons may satisfy their desires without becoming entangled in the reaction of sense gratification work. The prosperity of the world depends not on our own efforts, but on the background arrangements of the Supreme Lord, directly carried out by the demigods. Therefore, the yajnas are directly aimed at particular demigods mentioned in the Vedas. Indirectly, it is the practice of Krishna consciousness, because when one masters the performance of yajnas, one is sure to become Krishna conscious. But in performing the yajnas, one does not become Krishna conscious. Such principles are counted as only moral codes. One should therefore limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but one should transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Jai Prabhu. Thank you so much. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam, Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha, Shri Rupam Sagajatam, Sahagana Raghunathan Mitam Tam Sajivam, Sadavaitam Savatutam, Sahagana Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Dalita Shri Vishakhavatansha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Om Vishnu Pada Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swami Niti Namine Snigdha Sheta Supraneta Vagminam Charasaputam Prabhupada Gata Prana Naumi Bhakti Charu Pada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pasarine Nirvishesha Sandhivadi Pashat Deshatari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So nice purport. We will just try as usual to pick the main points from the purport and just dive a little bit deeper into them. So Prabhupada starts off the purport saying that the Maimonists, the Maimonist philosophy of work very hard and enjoy sense gratification is condemned herein by the Lord. So what is Maimonism? Can anybody guess or you know? So I looked up I roughly knew, but I looked up today the description. So it's the greedy pursuit of riches, literally. So Maimonism literally refers to people who are just literally living their life just out of greed of becoming richer and richer and richer, just greedy for money and possessions. This is called Maimonism. So that reminded me about this personality, Charvak Muni. I have quoted him before. Prabhupada quotes his shloka quite often. Charvak Muni was an atheistic philosopher in I don't know which actually, but quite early on in Vedic history. But his philosophy was like Maimonism almost. His idea was that you must enjoy life, forget about what's going to happen after. Literally, he preached that kind of philosophy. And there was a following. There was a big following at that time. So this particular verse, Prabhupada quotes quite often. Rinam kritva gritam pibet yava jivet sukham jivet. Bhasmi bhuttasya dehasya kutah punar agamano bhave. So Rinam actually, Rini, we know the word Rini in Hindi or Gujarati. Gujarati we say Runi. In Hindi and Sanskrit is Rini. Rini means becoming a debtor of somebody. So he says, become a Rini, Krita means become a Rini, become a debtor. But Gritam, anybody remember from the last time I was quoted this verse, what Gritam means?
Prabhuji, is it ghee? Yeah.
Who was that?
Neelam.
Oh yeah, Neela, yes, you remember from last time. Yes, ghee, exactly. Gritam actually means ghee. Pibet means to drink. So he says, whatever you do, even if you have to buy, beg or borrow, drink ghee. So as I was explaining last time, ghee, why ghee here is mentioned? Because perhaps at that time, ghee, and I suppose even now, ghee is quite an expensive commodity. In those days, perhaps it was only available to the privileged. So here, Charvak Muni is telling his disciples, just do whatever you have to do to drink ghee. So symbolism is that not actually physically, okay, you can drink also ghee, but main point is to live your life, enjoy your life. That was the point, right? Even if you have to buy the bag of a bottle, just enjoy your life. Next slide says, Yavat jivet sukham jivet. So no matter how you live happily, right? Pasmi bhuttasya dehasya. So this is the key line. Pasmi means to burn. We say pasma. Okay. So pasmi means to burn. So he says, when dehasya, when the body is burnt, everything is finished. Meaning that, he doesn't believe in reincarnation. And then he says, kuta, confirm this. Kuta punar agamano bhavat. Kuta means where is the question of punar, coming again, agamano, coming again. Punar means again, agamano is coming, bhavet, to happen. So it's never going to happen. Don't worry about your next life. Just carry on. So this is his philosophy. Yavat jivet sukham jivet. So somebody would say, oh, I haven't got the money. He says, don't worry, just, steal, beg or borrow. Somebody would say, oh, what about the future though? If I do all these activities of stealing and all that, what about my karma? He said, don't worry, nothing happens after the body is burned. Kuta punar agamano bhavet. Just enjoy life, live happily. Because when the body is burnt, nothing is left. So this is the kind of philosophy. And even now, we have many people we know who are still following this kind of philosophy in their life, where they don't believe that they're accountable for anything. And this leads to very irresponsible living. In Hindi, we say, thoda sa Bhagwan ka dar hona chahiye. We have to have some fear of God. Personally, as I was saying in one of my classes before, I don't particularly like the word fear, because Vaishnavism especially is not based on fear. We are not afraid of any particular thing. We love God. Our philosophy is based on love, not on fear. But anyway, generally people say, have fear of God, meaning it's not a bad thing. Of course, that means that, just before you take any action, please think of the consequences. That is the meaning of that. Bhagwanti daro, thoda Bhagwan se daro. So this is the point. Otherwise, we live a life of irresponsibility and we end up wasting our life, as this particular verse is saying. So the philosophy of these people is to enjoy fullest, and there's another term in English, which is hedonism. Hedonism means the same thing. Don't worry about anything, just enjoy as much as you can. Let's see what Prabhupada. So again, there's a verse. Devotees, I'll be repeating some of these verses. I've probably quoted this verse a dozen times already in the last 1 year. But these are very important verses in the 5th canto, 5th chapter of Bhagavatam, lessons given by Rishabdev to his sons. So these again fit in here in terms of the lesson that he's teaching his sons. So here, 551. Anybody know this verse? Anybody here from the course, Bhakti Vaibhav course? Let me quickly scan through. I can't see anybody here at the moment. But anyway, a very famous verse, Prabhupada quotes this quite often as well. So Rishabhuvacha, Nayam deho deha bhajamni loke, kashtan kaman arhate vidbhujami, tapo divyam putraka yena saptam, Sudyed yasmad brahma saukham tvanantam. So here, beautiful translation here. Lord Rishabh is telling his sons, my dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stew. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified. And when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. So compared to any happiness that we run after, by running after sense gratification, whatever happiness we get is very temporary. We know that. Chapala sukha, it comes for a moment and then goes away. Just think of any happiness you think is only momentary in the material world. But the spiritual happiness, as is explained in this last line, Sudyat Yasman Brahma Saukyam Tvanantam, Tvanantam, which means without stopping. So not just that happiness is continuous, but it is ever increasing. So we are wasting our time after temporary material happiness. Jada Sukha, it's called Jada Sukha. But we are ignoring the Brahma Sukha, which is far, far superior. So a little bit of effort, penance and austerity can then afford us the Brahma Sukha, and by which we can remain happy, not just after this life going back to Godhead, but also during this life, while we are actually performing devotional service, we experience that happiness. So very, very important thing to remember here. Moving on, Prabhupada says in the purport, therefore, for those who want to enjoy this material world, the above mentioned cycle of performing yajnas is absolutely necessary. So this cycle was mentioned in the last couple of verses. Would anybody want to maybe give a brief idea of what we're talking about, cycle of yajna?
The sacrifice to Supreme Lord, and then from Supreme Lord we get Vedas.
Yes.
From Vedas we do the prescribed duties.
Yes.
And from prescribed duties we do yajna.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
From yajna we get the clouds. From cloud we get grains.
Yes.
And then grains for a human to offer to Supreme Lord.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Venkat Prabhu, you've got it perfectly. So this is described in the previous two texts. Thank you so much, Venkat Prabhu. That's so nicely done. So text 14 explains, first of all, it says that all living bodies, they subsist on food grains, right? Then, which are produced from rains, because without rains, we can't get food grains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna. And as Venkat Prabhu just mentioned, yajna is born of prescribed duties. And then text 15 continues that the duties or regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and Vedas are directly manifested by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the cycle that we need to remember, that, you know, whatever we do, we are not independent in our activity. We are relying on the Lord ultimately in this cycle. So and anybody who wants to enjoy the material world, he has to perform this cycle, because by performance of this cycle, we are being regulated, and by being regulated, we will not incur all the sin that we will incur if we were not following this, because people will do all this. People will just eat without even thinking about where food is coming from. They will think, you know, you ask a child, my son, I used to ask him, where does milk come from? And he would say, it'll come from Tesco. So like that, right? But this is the mentality that even adults have. But we have to think, when we're eating, a morsel of our food goes into our mouth, we have to link it all the way back to Supreme Lord, because without this cycle of yajna, we would not get the grains. Let's continue and see what Prabhupada says next. By nature's law, this human form of life is specifically meant for self-realization in either of three ways, namely Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga. So, yoga, anybody tell me what's the meaning of the word yoga?
Hare Krishna,
To connect.
Prabhuji.
Yes, Pramila Mataji?
Is it union with God?
Yes, exactly. So yoga means to link. Yuj, the root word in Sanskrit is yuj. Yuj means to link or connect to the Lord, like connect with the Lord. So yoga actually means that. We have so many yoga classes going on everywhere, and those yoga classes, of course, it is part of the yoga system where they do the asanas and sometimes the breathing exercises, pranayam. But they stop at that. The point is, if you are yoga, if you continue the proper yoga system, you would eventually be connecting with the Lord. So yes, yoga means that. So when we're doing karma, if you're doing karma without any knowledge or any connection to the Lord, then we're doing karma. It's just either ugar karma, or even we are doing it with some notion of pleasing a demigod, then it's karma kanda. But when we are connecting it with the Supreme Lord, when you suddenly have some idea of the Supreme Lord, then it becomes yoga. So action without attachment to future results, that is called karma yoga. Because up to karma kanda, if you remember the yoga letter, I'm sure the last 2 days devotees must have gone through the yoga letter. Karma kanda level, you're still doing everything selfishly. But when we come to karma yoga, then you are actually still, maybe you will still enjoy the fruit results, but you're not particularly attached to them. Your consciousness, your focus is changing slightly. So you've now got the spiritual path in mind. So action without attachment to fruit results is karma yoga. That's the beginning step, first step in spiritual path. Then karma yoga, when after karma yoga, you start to get some knowledge and you start to develop some renunciation, that becomes jnana yoga. And then jnana yoga, then we start to meditate on the super soul. This particular step is not necessary. Devotees can go straight from jnana yoga, or even from karma yoga, straight to the Bhagwan realization. But these are the typical steps. So if you typically go and then meditate on the super soul within the heart, then that's called Ashtanga yoga. And then Ashtanga yoga, when then finally you come to realization that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that becomes Bhakti yoga. And factually, Bhakti yoga is the ultimate goal for everybody. So you see what happens many times is a lot of people are practicing these kind of practices. They may be doing karma kanda, of course, they're not gaining anything, but they may be in karma yoga. But if you're just stuck in karma yoga all your life, then you're better than some of the karmis, but you're not made as much progress as human life allows. So some people go into the jnana section and they are just stuck in the jnana yoga, like that. Ashtanga yoga, like similar. So the idea is to keep moving on and ultimately reach to Bhakti yoga, which is the perfection. Bhakti yoga means the love of God, and it is explained that that is the purpose of human life. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti adokshaje. The supreme occupation for any human being is to develop love for the Supreme Lord. And that love has to be ahaituki apratihata. It has to be without any motive and without any interruption. So that is the end goal that we must have in mind. Prabhupada continues, one who does not follow such regulation is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more. So again, I refer back to the fifth canto. I love the fifth chapter of the fifth canto very much because of this fantastic instructions that Rishabdev gave to his sons. And there again, he's saying here that talking about that those who don't follow such regulations, which means those people who are actually simply engaged in sense gratification. For them, Rishabdev speaks this verse to his sons. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma yat indriya pritiya apranoti nasadu manye yat atmanoyam asan api kleshada asa deha. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engages in all kinds of sinful activity. He does not know that due to his past misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. See, we were not supposed to get any material body. We were supposed to be living with the Supreme Lord in our spiritual body. But we got this because of our greed for self gratification. Actually, the living entity, the text continues, actually the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for self gratification. Therefore, I think it is not befitting an intelligent man to involve himself again in the activities of sense gratification by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after the other. This is the cycle of birth and death we are all stuck in. And until we come to some knowledge, until we come and meet some devotees and we find out, we are exposed to Prabhupada's teaching, and we really learn what is the purpose of human life, we will remain on us. All of us on this call, there's 50 or 50, almost 60 of us here. We all are very, very fortunate that we are in touch with Prabhupada's teachings, and we will not be wasting our life as per this verse. Prabhupada says, there is no necessity of rigidly following the performance of the prescribed yajnas for the transcendentalists who are above vice and virtue. But those who are engaged in self-gratification require purification by the above-mentioned cycle of yajna performances. So you see, here it is said that if some of us, maybe some of you are already at this stage, if you feel that you are above vice and virtue, then yes, you don't have to do these yajnas. But most of us, most mere mortals, will not be in that situation. We all have, to a greater or lesser degree, attachment to sense gratification. Our minds, our hearts are still not pure. It's a process. We are all in the process. We are all in devotional service, which is practice. And we're hoping that at some point we will get perfected. But right now, we need to carry on this process. Prabhupada says, yajna is important for happiness in the world, because by performing these yajnas, we get satisfaction of our own mind, and there's peace in the world, and there's happiness. It helps one in spiritual elevation, which is the purpose of human life. So these yajnas are designed in such a way, as we saw earlier in the cycle, that no matter which level you are on that, no matter which rung you are on that ladder, by persevering with these yajnas, you will gradually make your move upwards, elevation. It gradually purifies to bring one to the platform of Krishna consciousness. So then gradually, rung by rung, we're coming closer and closer to Krishna consciousness. So therefore, these other practices, although they don't seem directly related to Krishna, we may be doing yajnas for some demigods or whatever, but indirectly, it is still a practice of Krishna consciousness, because eventually we are going to reach to Krishna consciousness. The Prabhupada says, if by performing yajnas one does not become Krishna conscious, such principles are counted as moral codes. So you see, you will meet many people who will, for example, speak about Hinduism, and they will say, well, Hinduism, is a way of life. And as long as, they will say, as long as you are a good human being, Hinduism is about being a good human being. And that is it. That's, then, you're a good Hindu, which is fair enough. Yes, we all need to be good human beings. We need to be at least on the mode of goodness before we can go any further. But the point here is that is not it. That is just counted as moral codes, Prabhupada says here, right? And then he explains next line. He says, one should not, therefore, limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but should transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness. So you see, it's like many times we've discussed in terms of the modes of nature. If you are even living in goodness all the time, which is what the first line of like performing yajnas and living principles and moral codes, we are morally living a good life, that is not good enough. That's fine as far as this life is concerned, but it's not good enough because it's not going to get you across the line. We need to transcend that. So from goodness, we need to move on to pure goodness to be able to transcend material modes. So that's the point being made here. So what now, just concluding this particular verse, I'm asking a question now. What type of yajna is recommended for living entities in the age of Kali? Anybody?
Sankirtan.
Yeah, very good. Anybody know the verse in the 11th canto which speaks about this? I think in my last class I quoted the same verse, 532. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangopangasta Parshadam Yagya Sankirtanam Praya Yajanti Hi Su Medasaha. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. And so here, this verse is again speaking about Sankirtan movement, and particularly speaking about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came 500 years ago to establish, to give the whole world the process of Sankirtan Yajna. In different yugas, there were different different processes. Yajna actually was the process of which yuga was Yajna? What the process? Anybody?
Satyuga.
Who was that? Venkat Prabhu?
Prabhu.
Yeah, no. Satyuga was meditation.
Okay, then sorry, Treta Yuga then.
Treta, exactly. Thank you, Venkat. Yeah, thank you. So Treta Yuga was Yajna, and then deity worship, Murti Seva came in Dwapar, and now of course is Sankirtan. Of course, all the four we still carry on doing, but the potency of the others are not there in the Kali Yuga. In the other yugas, the potency was there purely because people who are practicing them were also themselves so potent. But nowadays, our potency is so weak that we cannot do all those things to achieve the direct result. So we are left to just the Nam Sankirtan. But it is explained here that that process, the particular yajna of chanting the holy name of the Lord, it gives us all the benefits that we attain, that people in the Satya Yuga used to attain with deep meditation on Lord Vishnu. Treta Yuga, they used to attain it by performing huge fire sacrifices. In Dwapar Yuga, they used to attain that by worshipping the Lord himself. And so all that can be achieved, this is explained in the 12th canto, 3rd chapter, text 52, I believe. Triteya Dhyayata Vishnu, Triteya Dhyayata Vishnu, Tretayam Yajato Makhe, Dwapare Paricharyayam, Trite Tat Hari Kirtanam. So this is confirmed in the Bhagavatam as well, that Hari Kirtana, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Iva Kevalam, Kalau Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva Gatiranyata. Appreciates. So this is the conclusion. Before I open up for questions and comments, I just wanted to remind everybody, first of all, thank you, all of you, wonderful participation for the Sankirtan, for the Bhadra campaign. I think it was very, very successful. We will not know the numbers, they're working on the numbers, we'll have the result in the next few days, but I'm sure it was very successful. And all of you who participated, we're very, very grateful to all of you. Divina Prabhu wanted me to just announce that just continuing the mood, sorry, I need to go back. Yeah, just to continue the mood of book distribution. We want to continue the momentum. Bhadra campaign is over, but book distribution is not just for 1 month or 2 months, it's forever, it's for life. So we have monthly Sankirtan gatherings. So this month, the first is going to be 25th of September. The leaflet's there. Leaflet has been shared on all the groups, on the Sankirtan Forever group especially. So you will see it there. If you have time on Saturday, please go meet the devotees there. It's a wonderful opportunity to get together with like-minded devotees and get involved in some book distribution activities. I think the meeting in Hemel Hempstead this time, they choose different areas every time. So go and support them. They will be, they also did 2 to 4, they did book distribution, 4 o'clock, end up in somebody's home for reflections and prasadam. So please do join them. Details are there on the Sankirtan Forever group. Thank you so much, devotees. I will now request any comments, questions, corrections, please. Hare Krishna. I cannot, sorry, Mataji, Prabhuji, sorry, iPhone. I can see iPhone is unmuted and I can hear some sounds, but I can't hear any speech.
Krishna Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Okay, now it's coming through. Yes, thank you.
I was asked about the modes of goodness. Because there's a lot of people who try and do the goodness, but they're probably not aware of Krishna consciousness. Does that count that? I know you have to do more than that. This is because what you're telling us and what we're reading. But
Mataji, what I heard so far, I'll just repeat what I heard, that there are many people who are living in the mode of goodness, who are trying their best to live in the mode of goodness, but they do not have the information of Krishna consciousness. And this is as much as I heard. Can you please try and see if there was any more? No sounds coming through at the moment. But okay, I'll just take it from there and say, yes, you're right. That's the point that that Prabhupada makes all the time, that yes, living in the mode of goodness is necessary, because unless you're in the mode of goodness, you will not be exposed to the higher truth. But to remain in the mode of goodness is not enough, and one must, by the mercy of devotees, make progress. We need association of devotees to know what to do next. You know, we meet many people at the temple actually who would come, and we know from just by discussing a few minutes with them that they are really, really nice people. They really are living a very, very healthy and sinless life, but they have no more information. So by us then giving them some more books to read about it and some more information, they are able to then their eyes are open and they're able to slowly start making progress. But yes, we need devotee association, exposure to Prabhupada books to clearly understand how to make progress further.
okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Venkat Prabhu.
Thank you for our wonderful lesson, Prabhuji. I just have a small doubt, Prabhuji. In the slide, you mentioned karma yoga plus knowledge plus renunciation makes jnana yoga. Is that correct, Prabhuji?
Yes.
But in the karma yoga itself, we have renunciation and fruitive results, right? So what is this additional renunciation here?
So see, karma yoga has, yes, karma yoga also includes part of renunciation, but then when your mood for renunciation gets intensified and knowledge, transcendental knowledge starts to develop, right? Initially, we may have knowledge which is not realized, but when that knowledge starts to become realized, and that's when, at the same time, when the knowledge is realized, the renunciation will also become condensed, intensified. So that becomes a path of jnana yoga.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Venkat Prabhu. Thank you. There's a message here from iPhone. It says, if one performs Sankirtan Yajna, is there any need to perform or supplement it with any of the other yajnas in the Vedas? Exactly, yeah. So that's a very, very good point. So it is said that, yes, if we are performing Sankirtan Yajna, because in the age of Kali, that is the only yajna that is the most potent. If we do that yajna with the right consciousness, with the proper focus, then we don't need to do anything. In Kali Yuga, all we need is to do Nam Sankirtan. That's all. The other yajnas which were mentioned in the Vedas, they're all covered. So it is said that once you satisfy, because by performing Sankirtan yajna, you are satisfying Krishna. So it is like yatha taror mula nisarchanena. If you water the root of a tree, the trunk, the branches, the twigs, the leaves, everything gets nourished. So if we are satisfying Krishna, then everything else is nourished. So therefore, we do not need to particularly worry about the other yajnas. But the main point here, the one criteria is that we must be quite firm in our practice of Nam Sankirtan. If you're not doing that, if you're very wishy-washy in our practice, then we maybe need to supplement it with the other yajnas. But if you are very focused and convinced, then we are not needed to do anything else. Santosh Mataji is saying, I know that Radha Madhavi Mataji is waiting also, but I'm just going to speak, read out Santosh Mataji's question. Thank you for the wonderful class. Could you explain what is meant by the incarnation of Godhead? Okay. Incarnation of Godhead. So that means all incarnations, all incarnations that come. Godhead refers to Lord Krishna, head of gods. So Godhead refers to Lord Krishna, and then all expansions, all incarnations come from him. So so first incarnation from, okay, what's the first expansion from Lord Krishna? Anybody?
Balaram.
Balaram, exactly, Venkat Prabhu. Very knowledgeable, thank you, Prabhu. So Balaram, so like that. So Balaram is his first incarnation or expansion, right? So the word expansion, incarnation sometimes is used interchangeably, but there is a subtle difference. Balaram is an expansion rather than incarnation. Incarnation would be when you have incarnations like the
like Varadev,
Varadev, Matsya, Avatar, Narsimhadev, those are more like incarnations. But then expansions like Baladev, then Vishnu also is an expansion like that. So this is all incarnations and or expansions. I hope that makes sense. And yes, Radha.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Was Radha Madhavi Mataji was unmuted, and was there any question from you?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. No, it's just a mistake. I'd pressed the button. Apologies.
Don't worry at all. Thank you. Jolie Mataji, I can see you unmuted.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can you explain what does Sankirtan Yagna involve?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful question. You know, we all know, we all think it is for taken for granted. Everybody knows what Sankirtan Yagya is. But Sankirtan Yagya basically means chanting the names of the Lord, right? So you chant the names of the Lord in two ways. We have japa, which is personal chanting, and then we have kirtan, which is chanting either chanting the japa, or chanting the holy name of the Lord, or singing glories of the Lord, which is loudly in a group of people. So this is both called Sankirtan. So in a narrow sense, it means chanting the names of the Lord, but in a wider sense, Sankirtan means all the activities of Krishna consciousness, which means hearing, reading, preaching, chanting, all that actually is Sankirtan.
So book distribution is involved as well.
Exactly. That's also Sankirtan.
Hare Krishna.
Conscious activities are Sankirtan.
Yeah. Haribol.
Haribol. Thank you, Jolie Mataji. Okay, I got Surabhi Mataji who's saying, thank you for such a peaceful session. What exactly are details of Sankirtan Yagya? The translation says song sacrifice. So you don't, yeah, okay. So yeah, I got the answer. Thank you. Yeah, I just gave the answer. Thank you. Yeah. So exactly, Sankirtan literally means Krishna consciousness. The very first, if you get a chance, have a look at the very first of the Shishtastakam, very first verse of the Shishtastakam, which explains Sankirtan and what it does to us. Okay, anybody else? Does listening, yes, I've got one second, has a iPhone saying, does listening to the mantra count? Yes, very much so. Yes. See, we are listening when we are in a temple room, and when somebody is singing and we're repeating. So we're hearing them and then we're repeating. We're hearing, we're repeating. Also, whilst we're chanting, we're also hearing ourselves. So all the time, hearing is also that listening is also counted. Listening not just to the mantras, listening to this class today. We all listen to this class. That also is Sankirtan. That also counts. Surabhi Mataji is asking, what is Shishtastakam? Okay, Shishtastakam is a set of 8 verses or 8 instructions which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left. These are the only 8 written instructions that he left for us. So what I request somebody to maybe put a link on the group, on the chat, where, or maybe after the class, I will put it on the groups, on the WhatsApp groups, a link to Sikshashtakam, so you can go and read it and also hear it perhaps on YouTube. Beautiful. These 8 verses actually are the total philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, so question here from Santosh Mataji. Today is the start of Shraddha. How do Vaishnava devotees mark this special period? Yeah, so this month of Shraddha is very important. So we would donate bhoga to the temple. So Vaishnavas would do the same thing during the month of Yaga, just for the satisfaction of all our pitras, all our family members who passed away. We will then we actually give bhoga to the temple, which can be used to make prasadam for the deities as well as for the devotees. So we do that, and we do that donation on behalf of our forefathers. We do also during Shraddha, we meditate, we pray for the departed souls as much as we can. Maybe some people do extra rounds for their departed family members like that. So just chant for them. One should never underestimate the power of prayers. Prayers are not limited by any material boundaries. If my sound, if I'm speaking here, just if I shout from here, my wife may not hear me because she's downstairs, because there's walls and doors and everything in the way. But prayers, heartfelt prayers, they transcend all these things. They penetrate all the material things, and they will penetrate even the coverings of the universe, and they will go and reach the souls that we are praying for. Very, very important to do that. Which kirtan, sorry, iPhone is saying, which kirtan is Sankirtan? So actually, Sankirtan is not a particular kirtan. It actually refers to a generic term for chanting, like I say, in a narrow meaning, but a wider meaning is Krishna consciousness, doing Krishna conscious activities, doing bhakti in Kali Yuga is Sankirtan. Kirtan means to chant or sing, both is kirtan. So chanting the names or singing the names, but Sankirtan means doing it together with people. So in a group. So we do our seva together with other devotees. We do our chanting together with other devotees, like that. That's Sankirtan. Is Shraddha for souls that are in Pitraloka, otherwise they may have taken birth. Yeah. Yes, Shraddha, basically the meaning of Shraddha, good point Hema Mataji is making, the Shraddha, it is like almost like, how can I put it? Because we don't know, we don't have information about what happens to those souls after they're left. So our family members have left, the souls are there. So some may have gone back to Godhead if they have perfected their life. Some may have taken birth in a nice family already. But some just from bad luck of it, because they have done some activities which are not very favorable, are maybe not still delivered. So for them, Shraddha is there, which then helps to the soul to move on. Ajay Mukund Prabhu has kindly put the Sikshashtakam link there. So anybody who wants to just look at that, you can just copy that link, and that way you have access to that Sikshashtakam. Very, very important. Devotees is 10 to 9, so we should close. Sorry, one question just came again from iPhone. Is offering big to poor or homeless less valuable than offering devotees in a temple? See, donations of all kind, of course, when you're helping other living entities, of course, it's very good. But when we offer to other devotees, it will gain us sukriti, which is material sukriti. this kind of donation will what we will attain from there is perhaps some good fortune in this life, or maybe even the next life. But when we give the donation to Krishna or to devotees to use for Krishna, that is spiritual. So for that, we're getting a spiritual sukriti rather than material sukriti. It's a subtle but very important difference. I hope that makes sense. So both is important, of course. We can't say that you should not give anything to anybody, but we must always make sure that we are building our. Again, very quickly, I'll explain the material sukriti. So that bank balance is a two-way account. We're putting in and taking out. But the spiritual bank account is a one-way account. We put in and it remains there for eternity. You can never lose it. So that's why spiritual bank account is very important. Very deep subject, but we'll have to leave it there. It's getting quite late now. So devotees, thank you so much. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patita nam
Thank you very much,
Hare
Prabhuji. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
Deputy.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mukesh bhai.
Hare Krishna, Veena Mataji. See you tomorrow.
अपने खबर से 60 पहुंची जाता participants.
Really, I one time I saw about 50 something. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
We were 60.
Wow, that's amazing. That's quite big.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I didn't notice who that was.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
There you go.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you
Hare
very
Krishna,
much for the
Mataji,
class.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
giving us our association. So
Thank you
nice.
so much.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jyoti Mataji, thank you forever for doing the classes. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll end now. Thank you. Hare Krishna.